Hello everyone, welcome to the IAS Mentor Ancient History series. So far we have completed chapter number 1, that is Stone Age. We have already completed. In this video, we are starting chapter number 2, that is Indus Valley Civilization. See the timeline, 3200 BC to 1300 BCE. That is the timeline in which this civilization flourished in India. With respect to prelims point of view and mains point of view, this chapter is very important. Both in prelims and mains, multiple times questions asked about Indus Valley Civilization. Why it is important? When it comes to civilization, civilization means people were educated. People were educated. People lived in cities. People maintained well-connected networks. Both within the civilization as well as outside the civilization. Good networks they maintained. And they were capable to procure whatever they need from long distances, and they were catering whatever is required by the others. Next, these people were advanced in technology. When many of the contemporary people not educated, and they were living in forests or villages, and they were not well connected with the neighbors, technology wise also backward. Simply, when majority people were in the beginning stage of human life, some section of the people became advanced. That set of people in Indian history also, one section was there, that is Indus Valley Civilization. Why it is so important for our UPSC means it is because of the context in which this civilization was unearthed, discovered. This civilization earlier 100 years ago, our previous generations do not know about this civilization. In 1920s, this civilization was discovered with complete clarity that India had witnessed some advanced phase when many of the parts of the world were in this stage. In 1920s, who were ruling India? The British. British were telling that on what basis they were ruling. Hardly few lakhs of people were there, but they were ruling crores of the people, Indians. At least more than 20 plus crores of people were there when British were ruling India. How many of the British or how many of the Europeans were there? Hardly few lakhs of people. Why? How they could rule these many sections of the people means they came up with an ideology. Ideology that the British were superior. The British were cultured people. The British were advanced in technology. And they were sent by the God To civilize Indians. This is the term. To civilize Indians. This is the theory. They convinced some section of the people, then they supported the British Raj, and that is how they were able to rule India. After unearthing this section in archaeological survey, in our past, at some point of time, when the Britishers were in this phase, Indians are already in this phase. That's why it became one of the very important weapons in the hands of Indian freedom fighters in 1920s and 1930s to attack the British ideologically, that whatever theory they are saying, racially superiority theory, advanced, Indians were inferior, not civilized, not cultured people. When they were narrating those kind of ideologies, Indians could proudly say that it is much before you started agriculture, it is we Indians entered into this advanced civilization. That is why the importance of discovery is very important, because the Britishers were continuously degrading. The Britishers were degrading Indians. In that context, the discovery of civilization gave pride for Indians. And also it gave self-confidence for Indians. Self-confidence. Already before 1920s itself, Indian historians were continuously doing research, whether whatever the stories British were narrating are true or not. But it has given proof, it has given clear-cut proof that Indians were much advanced long ago than what our ancestors were thinking or our freedom fighters were thinking. That is why the discovery of IVC is very, very important to in giving confidence and self-pride for Indians. What is so special about it? What the Indus Valley people achieved? For that, we have to see the time period and also the contemporary civilizations. When India was civilized, when Indians were living in cities, were there any set of people were also living in cities? Or only Indians were living in cities while rest of the world is not at all living in cities? Is it so? That answer we have to see only when we see the contemporary developments at that time. So heading here is timeline. When it comes to timeline, whatever the discovery that took place, that belongs to 3200 BC to 1300 BCE. BCE we have already seen in the previous video that BCE refers to before Common Era. Before Common Era. That means before Jesus Christ. Here we are talking about a story that happened 3000 years before Jesus. Europeans, the British, many colonial people, whoever come from Europe, they referred Jesus' life as the reference in measuring the time also, like before Jesus and after Jesus. But here Indians were living in cities 2000 years, 3000 years before Jesus. This is the timeline. Now, when it comes to the contemporary civilizations, during this time period, were there any people who were living in cities? Contemporary. Along with Indians, British were ruling. Were British in cities? No. Were Germans were cities? No. Were French people in cities? No. Then who were there? It's very interesting that The Europeans used to degrade Indians. It's not only about India. They used to degrade Asians and Africans. Asians and Africans. That's why Europeans controlled most of Asians and most of the Africans. In the name of civilizing, they completely controlled Asian continent and African continent. Interesting element here is much long ago these Europeans entered into the so-called advanced phase. These people entered into this advanced phase. Advanced. And one interesting element also is that the name Europe, it's a very interesting element that the name Europe also comes from the story or the legend related to Asia. But these kind of developments came later, gradually, when more and more research was taking place, when more and more scientific advancement were taking place. But in 1920s or in 1800s, the British and the Europeans were controlling everywhere. That was the reality. That's why the discovery of IVC was a game changer in giving confidence about Asians, in our case Indians, that we were not like the British, what the British were narrating. This is contemporary civilizations were like this. This is how. This is Africa. Asia. Here 4 places were there during this time period: 3000 BCE, 2000 BCE during this time period. That means 2000 years before Jesus. One element is here, one area, one civilization is called IVC. Another one, this is in China. Initially, it was thought that this civilization flourished along the river Indus. That's why it was named as Indus Valley Civilization. Here, Huangho River or Yellow River civilization, Chinese civilization. In this place, Mesopotamians, what is the river? On which river it flourished means Euphrates. Tigris, Euphrates. One more famous civilization was this. This is known as Egypt civilization. This flourished near Nile River. But in 1800s, in 1900s, you can see this. That means in 2000 BCE, these people were living in more advanced phase of life. But by 1800s and 1900s, this part of the world conquered, controlled everywhere. To control all these people, the Europeans came up with various ideologies, that white man burden theory. White man's burden theory. That means Europeans are saying that we are taking the burden. God has sent us to civilize because you are not civilized. But archaeology is giving that these areas were civilized long ago. So that is where Indus Valley Civilization, in our own Indian subcontinent also, we have something to take pride to counter these narrative. And that is how such kind of developments led to independence. When Indians got awareness that whatever British were narrating, that is not completely true. Everyone have their own pace of development. No doubt in 1800s and 1900s, this part of the world is developed. But it doesn't mean that these areas were not developed at all in the history. That narrated the story, whatever they narrated, it became wrong when this kind of discoveries have taken place. That is very, very crucial component. That's why I hope now you are very clear that Indus Valley Civilization discovery made Indians realize that they were also civilized long ago, much before the British even coming to know about agriculture, basic beginning lifestyle. So they were in the hunting and gathering stage or just beginning their culture, agriculture, but Indians much advanced. I hope it is very clear. This is the significance. So first part is what is civilization? So far we have discussed what is civilization and significance of it. Significance of this discovery. Now, if that is so important, how this came to light? Who discovered it? And the people involved in that also very important for the prelims point of view. We have to know the people who are behind are the people who contributed for the discovery of this civilization. Significance, timeline. Another one is this contemporary civilizations. So far we have discussed 3 elements. Now the next element is discovery of this great civilization. Discovery. Who discovered it and how it was discovered and how it was named like Indus Valley Civilization. The people who were living 5,000 years ago, did they name themselves as Indus Valley Civilization or we are giving it? That name we are giving. That means archaeologists or scholars, whoever worked on this life, they named it, but we do not know what those people called themselves. But some references were there. There is a name given by Mesopotamians to these people. To these people, we do not know what these people called themselves, but Mesopotamians called IVC with some name that we will see now. This discovery, initially it was thought that India is always not civilized at all. That means they were not materialistically progressive in ancient times. Indians always believed in next life. That means Indians were more interested towards religion, God, heaven, hell, life after the death. Indians were not that much progressive in materialistic life or in this life, like technologically advancement, living in cities, educated section of the people. Britishers and Europeans were thinking, and also it's unfortunate that we Indians were also thinking like that only. Because the moment history means our history started with Vedas only. 100 years ago, 150 years ago, for example, if you take Gandhiji, when he was studying in his school days, he would have started history means from Vedic period. That means Vedas are considered the first beginning stage of Indian history. Thanks to the scientific advancement, these discoveries are giving us light that before Vedas, much long before Vedas, people were there, people contributed, and people achieved great heights in their materialistic life also. When it comes to discovery, this happened accidentally initially in 1800s, but systematically it happened in 1900s. When it comes to the timeline, in 1861, Archaeological Survey of India was established, ASI. In 1857, there was a great revolt. A great revolt. The British also showed interest that whatever they knew about India is not completely true or not completely known to them. We have to dig more and more about Indians to really understand how the Indian life was there since the beginning of the time. Archaeological Survey of India was established. Before that, this is a department organized way of digging started from this point. But before also, some excavators, some explorers, some adventurers, they were exploring in different parts of India. They identified some places related to Vijayanagar, related to Ashoka inscriptions. Brahmi script was also deciphered in 1830s. In that way, it was going on. When Britishers were expanding their territories across India, they were coming to know the greatness of ancient medieval people of India. In 1861, ASI was established. The first Director General was Alexander Cunningham. Alexander Cunningham. Later, by 1920s, in some places near the Indus River, some settlements were unearthed. John Marshall, he was the Director General of this time period. He officially announced that Indians were advanced long ago, much before British entered into the civilization phase. This came to be known as Indus Valley Civilization. Some Indians like R.D. Banerjee, Dayaram Sahani were also involved in the excavation of this Indus Valley Civilization. 1861, Alexander Cunningham, prelims question, Archaeological Survey of India. 1920s, John Marshall officially announced that there is great civilization in Indian subcontinent. Earlier, in 1780s, Sanskrit texts were translated into English. They were reading and they were coming to know about India. But this discovery completely changed the perspective that there is life before Vedas. This is what John Marshall, prelims questions, Alexander Cunningham related to Archaeological Survey of India, John Marshall also related to Archaeological Survey of India, R.D. Banerjee, Dayaram Sahani associated with Archaeological Survey of India and excavations of Indus Valley Civilization. We are talking about Indus Valley Civilization. What is that location exactly? How many regions were discovered? This is the region. You see this? It is not that one city, two cities, three cities. So many cities came to light. That came to be known as Indus Valley Civilization. Across Indus River, many cities were discovered. This city life was discovered, which belongs to almost 4,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, 3,000 years, 2,500 years ago. Sorry, not 2,000 years. This is 2,500 BCE. That means 4,500 years ago. 4,000 years ago. Likewise, these evidences were coming out. This is the place where Indus Valley Civilization was discovered. Identify this. What is the river? This is Indus and its tributaries. If you identify some cities like Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Rakhi-gadi, Banavali, Chanhodaro, Sudgajendar, here you can see Lodhal, Dholavira and so on. These are some of the important cities, some of the important settlements of Indus Valley Civilization. These are also important for the prelims point of view. Like in the context of ancient Indian history, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, Chanhodaro were Indus Valley cities. Answer is Indus Valley cities. Is it clear so far? We have seen so far that is discoveries like this. From 1920s onwards, there was continuous research in that area. So many sites started coming out. But in 1947, partition took place. After partition, from Indian side, Indian archaeologists and scholars were working on that. In the Pakistani side, Pakistan scholars and archaeologists were continuously doing it. And by this time, now as we are learning today, we have sufficient information about this civilization, great civilization. All right. So what is this? This is what discovery of Indus Valley Civilization. Now, once this is discovered, now British came up with a new kind of theory that it is very clear. It is very clear that Indians were living in cities. Indians were advanced in nature. They were living in cities like this 4,000 years ago, 4,500 years ago. But now British, whatever ideology they came up, that European superiority theory, that is becoming negated. Now they came up with another theory that no doubt near Indus these cities emerged. But these cities were not founded by Indians. Someone came from outside, like we British came from outside and we are gifting you this culture and civilization. Similarly, 4,000 years ago, someone came from outside and they started building these cities. Now you see how it goes. This is how. When we go to the map, this is the, what is the British theory now? Because the moment if you accept that Indian civilization exists and whatever theory they are saying is wrong, then their ideologically the moral strength will come down. That is where Gandhiji also fought against British with Satyagraha. You could not, the great 1857 revolt, they were fighting, they fought with British through weapons. They could not overthrow British Raj or Company Raj. But with non-violence Satyagraha, when moral force is used, British Raj came down. The mighty British Raj was kneeled down through moral force. That's where now the British are coming with a new idea that this, no doubt, this area has witnessed this much great civilization. Area is no doubt belong to Indian subcontinent. But these cities were gifted by these people like Mesopotamians, someone from Iran. They came and they established these cities. It is not the people who were locally living in this area. Like British came and civilizing this area. In the past also someone came. That means for Indians always someone is needed who come from outside to gift civilizations. Now again it became a challenge for the Indians. Is it really so? Now it is once again insulting the Indians that Indians do not know anything. They always depend on outsiders. Now this is where the problem emerged. More intense research happened. Now this is where our first chapter, Stone Age, come into play. In our Stone Age, what is the first village settlement in Indian subcontinent? That is Mehergarh. Mehergarh. In which time period Mehergarh witnessed the first village? They produced cotton, they produced wheat, they produced many crops and they lived in houses. In which time period? This is 7000 BC. Now, when it comes to cities, when we are talking about cities emerged in 3000 BC. That means what is the time gap between Mehergarh and Harappa Mohenjo-daro cities? 7000 BC to 3000. That means 4000 years gap is there. Even if Indians were very slow in the development, can't Indians develop from cities, from villages to the cities in 4000 years? Therefore, it is not that, and cities cannot be built overnight. Rome is not built in single day. The same slogan which comes from Europe. Likewise, these cities also cannot be built in single year or single time. It has to be an evolution process. It's a gradual process. Therefore, long ago, much before cities emerged, this area witnessed so many village settlements. What we are calling them? These village settlements we are calling Neolithic. Stone Age people were there. After some time, they started learning using copper also. First metal used by human beings, copper. It is not that Indians first used copper. In some other place, copper was used for the first time. Here also, after Stone Age, copper was also used, but stone tools continued. That phase is known as Chalcolithic phase. That means copper plus stone tools were used. That is known as Chalcolithic period. That means what is happening here? The British narrated once again new theory. So first they came that Indians not at all civilized. This discovery proved them wrong. Now they came up with a new idea that this is not belong to Indian. Someone came from outside and they started giving or gifting these cities. All of a sudden these cities emerged. Again more archaeological evidences came that again this theory also came wrong, that it is not a sudden development. It is a gradual development. Hundreds, thousands of years ago itself, in this area, Stone Age people were there, Neolithic people were there. They were using stone tools and started living in villages. Gradually, they started using copper also. It led to improvement in their standard of living, and gradually they moved to the city life. Now, could you see the connection between first chapter and second chapter? That is, first is Stone Age, second one is Indus Valley Civilization. That's why always when you are watching the videos, always come from the beginning. It's like a story. If you go in the mid of the movie, then you cannot understand what happened in the first half of the movie. Therefore, in the first beginning itself, you have to start watching. Similarly, in our case also, history is a single story. Only for convenient purpose, we are dividing ancient, medieval, modern. But now you see how connectivity is coming from the first chapter to the second chapter. Now, the more and more excavations are coming, the more and more evidences are coming from Stone Age, then it became very clear that Indus Valley Civilization is not a sudden development, but a gradual development. That is the next heading. And with this, we will end this video. In the next video, we will see what is the life of Indus Valley people. So the next heading is, after discovery, evolution of cities. Evolution of cities. Whatever British told, the British were giving impression and giving the theory that Indus Valley Civilization is a foreign origin. That means it is not indigenous. Not indigenous. It's not indigenous. It is a foreign based civilization. But evidence coming out, evidence is proving that there is a connection between Stone Age. First, people started living in hunting and gathering. Hunting and gathering. And after that, they lived with domestication of animals. Then they started practicing agriculture. They have done these activities with stone tools. Later, they used copper metal. Copper metal. This came to be known as Chalcolithic phase. Chalcolithic phase. That means copper plus stones continued Chalcolithic phase. As a result, this activity improved, this activity further improved. This led to artisan activities, industrial activities improved. This led to more trading. When more and more industrial activities and trading activities take place, this will create atmosphere for the rise of cities. Rise of cities. So this is a gradual process, not a sudden process like colonial people, colonial imperialist people were talking. Therefore, the evolution is like this. Around 7000 BC, Mehergad. Then around 3500 BC, Chalcolithic phase. This is first time agriculture, first time village, first time metal. Then by 2600 BC, it reached 900 BC, the city life peak. City life. So that's where it's a gradual process. City life reached like this. So village, semi-towns, now full town life, educated life, technologically advanced life. This is what? Evolution. Gradual evolution, not a sudden one. That was colonial origin theory or foreign origin theory. But evidence is coming. First chapter, this is how about our first chapter, Stone Age. You know that Bori, one of the earliest Neolithic, one of the earliest Paleolithic settlement in Maharashtra. In Madhya Pradesh, Bhimbetka, Adamgarh, Mehergarh, Sohan Valley, Didwana, Kurnool caves. So many places were there much long ago. Lakhs of years ago itself, India has witnessed the human settlement. Now, in this part, in the northwestern part, this development has taken place. But after 1900 BC, gradually it declined. 1300 BC, in every phase, like empire, British Empire rise and fall, Roman Empire rise and fall, Gupta Empire rise and fall, Mauryan Empire rise and fall. Every phase, there will be peak, rising, peak stage and declining. Similarly, IVC also declined. But it did not disappear. The culture did not disappear. Culture diffused. All of a sudden, it did not decline. It's a gradual. Now, people, whatever knowledge they gathered in this phase, that knowledge moved to new areas. Moved to new areas in this field. So what is this knowledge? This knowledge, education, town life, using bronze, advanced technology, networks. This advanced life, even though some of them disappeared, but some of them diffused to the new areas. That is how IVC culture continuity till today. So this life gradually evolved, reached peak and continuing even today also. We have to see that what are those elements and what are the elements continuing and why this phase is important in understanding present day society, present day economic conditions. This is where we will see the next element, next topic, that is the life of the people. So in next video, we will continue with this. So far we have seen Indus Valley Civilization. Civilization means these are the characteristics. Significance is during 1920s, India was fighting against British Raj for freedom. This gave a lot of confidence, self-respect for Indians. These are the contemporary civilizations. Along with Indus Valley Civilization, some great civilizations were also there, but not this part, Europe. But in 1920s, this part is ruling across these areas. That's why for these people, it gave a lot of confidence on them, particularly for India. When it comes to discovery, this is the discovery. In 1861 Archaeological Survey of India, by 1920s under John Marshall, it was announced that there was a civilization. When it comes to evolution, British now started giving a new interpretation that cities all of a sudden emerged and came from outside. It is not indigenous, but evidence of Stone Age is proving that it is not a sudden one, it's a gradual evolution. And it's a gradual decline also. This knowledge, some of them disappeared, some of them diffused to the new areas. In this video, we are discussing up to this. In the next one, we will see what is the life of these people. Like in case of Stone Age, we have seen the life, how they subsistence, what kind of food they were eating, agriculture, how they practiced, and artisan activities, how they practiced, then trade activities, how they practiced, governance, was there any kind of evidence of the administration or not, what kind of religious beliefs they were having. All those things we will analyze in the next video. So far, we have discussed one part of Indus Valley Civilization. All right, we will meet in the next video. Thank you.